Good morning, everyone, or good evening, good afternoon, wherever you happen to be around the world. Happy Shochu'sday from here in Japan. Stephen and I are coming to you live from, the booze closet here. Um, and
It's
Stephen's
new and
man.
improved.
It
New
is
and
new and
improved
improved.
booze closet.
It is. It is. I'll get out of the
Look
way
at
for a
this.
second. Look at that. I got some
Yeah.
actual furniture that doesn't look like I'm standing in a pantry.
Yeah. Well, no, now it looks like a pantry. Before it looked like a closet, right? You had the clothes,
Yeah.
you know. So
Yeah, you're
little
right.
little more work to do, but I like it.
I
It's an
need
improvement.
I need some decorations, I guess. But
Yeah, and the little art
yeah, I
art
mean
on that
it,
wall
it
behind you. You look like you just moved in.
I feel like I
The
just
most
moved in.
important
This place is
supplies
so
are
clean right now.
the
I'm
most
not a, I'm
important
not a,
supplies have been stocked and or
yeah,
unpacked.
yeah, it's, there's a lot more space than I'm used to in terms of just the organizational aspect. You can't really see it, I don't think. Well, you could just see the tops of it,
Yeah,
but there's actual
sure.
cupboards down here, so I
Cupboards.
have
Okay, good. You can store things.
space
Good.
for miles. Yeah, it's kind of nice.
Good. And how high up does it
Anyways,
go? Can you
what's
stack
that?
tall stuff on top? Is there like
Yeah,
headspace to stack each being up there?
I can tell you exactly how much headspace I have because I have one of these things. Okay, let's see.
Or...
I have more than 50 centimeters, so half a meter. So what? That's a foot and a half of
Okay.
head space above there. And right now I have mostly shochu and awamori related pottery on the top.
Okay.
So like this
Hmm.
is my one of my chuko
Got it.
um, aging
Cool.
pots, and yeah, I'm still
Yeah.
still trying to figure it out. These middle guys are a little tight, so I can only put shorter bottles
Sure,
here.
sure.
And then this bottom one
Yeah.
is just too small for. Can I raise that? I can't. That's as high as it can go. So I
Okay.
can't tuck the isho bean under it, but it's fine because it kind of
Yeah.
looks like
It's
a
you
display.
could store a bunch of 720s and 900s under there just to get them out of the way.
Yeah, I think that's exactly what I'm gonna end up doing.
Cool.
Yeah,
Well,
it'll
nice
be
remodel. It's an
yeah,
improvement.
simple.
Sure.
Took forever to put together.
I like
We're
your t-shirt too.
yeah, this was a present from TechCon.
Yeah.
When we were there, when we were at Yamato Zakura for Thanksgiving,
Yeah.
and we were, you were cooking Thanksgiving dinner, and
Yeah.
TechCon's like, "Hey, come on, Pellegrini, let's go get the koji done." So I'm like, "Yeah, cool, as long as I don't get crazy sweaty." And then because I need to go and help Steven and not smell like I can when I'm working out. And so we go and we have a couple of deep conversations while we're doing the koji, and it you know how it works. I mean,
Yep. Yep.
it's a full upper body experience, and
Yeah,
you're
you're
bending
dripping.
over and I'm trying to keep up with him too. So naturally by the end of it I'm just dripping wet, and he's like, "Oh, you're sweating." I'm like, "Yeah, no shit. We were just in a sauna doing manual labor, having a deep conversation." So yeah, it
Yeah.
was a rather intense experience. So he's like, what do we do? What do we do? You want to take a shower? I'm like, I don't want to really take a shower and get back into these clothes. He's like, and he comes back with this T-shirt. It's a Satsuma
Yep.
Shochu T-shirt. There's the kettle on the back,
Yeah,
which
got the
is
mark.
there. It is, and this is appropriate for today's conversation, which we'll get to in a moment. Let's see what everybody's drinking. Anagman over on YouTube is talking about what did he get? He
He got
says he finally got
Nankai.
his first Kokto Shochu Nankai, not the gold. So you got the. I have a
The
bottle of it here
standard,
somewhere.
the vacuum. I finished that.
Where
That
is it?
stuff's nice and easy drinking.
I found it. A little, let's give Nankai a little shout out here. So this
Yep.
is what he's drinking. This is available in the United States. A very nice vacuum distilled, as you said, Kokto Shochu. Helpfully says spirits distilled from 80% cane and 20% rice. So that's a 5-to-1 ratio. Low calories, gluten free, no sugar or carbs, and from Amami, Japan.
Yeah.
This is a nice one.
Yeah. Paul started the brand. We've had on the show Tuesday before, back when we were on Instagram. I think you interviewed him, didn't you?
That's right. That was a
Yeah.
long time ago. Wow.
It was last year. That was a really nice. It's light, easy drinking. primarily in the LA market, California, which is where Paul and his wife are based. His wife's from Amami, and that's how he discovered Kokuto Shochu, was visiting her family. And yeah, the rest is history. They ended up creating a brand and off to the races. And then Nankai Gold won a medal at I think San Francisco last year.
Yeah,
if I remember correctly.
Yep, that's right.
So yeah, good stuff. Cool. Yeah, and it's actually, we did just record the Kokuto Shochu episode.
We did. That's right. That one will be coming out next, won't it?
That's right.
Is that right?
That is right.
I can't keep them straight now. So
Yeah.
okay, yeah. Let's talk about episodes.
Yep. So
So
our new one
yeah,
is sweet potato. Came out on Monday, and it's our first deep dive into sweet potato shochu. And we recommend lots of brands and talk about the history and all that sort of thing, as we tend to do on our podcast episodes. Anything stand out for you, Christopher?
no. I just remember feeling like while we were recording, we were trying very hard not to get too deep into the weeds. So that was very much the 101 episode. I hope it doesn't feel overwhelming or like it's too much information, but it is absolutely probably the category in the shochu world that deserves another 2 or 3 episodes just to get through the basics.
Sure, there's so much
we could
there.
do a whole episode on koji and yeast strains. We could do a whole episode on aging techniques. We could do a whole episode on sweet potato varietals and a bunch of stuff in between. So it was a very scratch the surface type of thing.
Yeah,
but glad we got that.
It's probably a sophomore level class.
Okay.
All right.
Sure. I mean the freshmen
the Shochu
are
101
too young to drink anyway.
Yeah, the Shochu 101 was our 101, and the interesting feedback we got actually recently was that the episodes, these category specific episodes of rice, barley, sweet potato are so packed full of information that it's difficult to listen to when you're distracted. It's not something to listen to while you're, working or doing something else. You need to kind of focus.
Well, I guess
it's
that's
just so much in there, right? Then
that's probably the point of podcasts, is it not?
It can be
some podcasts.
Right?
Some are just mindless entertainment.
Yeah, or they have like tidbits of good information, but most of it's just fun, right? And I think we're more lots of information and a little bit fun. Right? I think we're on the other end of that spectrum. Like, I really enjoy the Japan by River Cruise podcast. If anybody's looking for something that's funny, really funny actually, and then about sort of current events and what life is like in Japan, that's a really good one. It's called Japan by River Cruise, but that's not at all what the show is about. It's because there are a couple of comedians, Bobby Judo and Ollie Horn. Bobby actually lives here in Fukuoka, and
Ollie's in the UK, is that right?
Ollie is now in the UK. He spent most of the pandemic in Southeast Asia. I don't know why. I guess he just I don't know if he was there when it started or what happened, but he's back in the UK now. But they're a funny show, but they do give you tidbits, right? So you get some really good information about current events or some obscure tax law for expats or whatever will just kind of be thrown into the show, and they're usually interviewing a guest who's a journalist or human rights advocate or something like that. So there's some seriousness to it, but then there's lots of humor thrown in. So
yeah,
little shout out to them. But yeah, we're more of a fact-based show. Some opinion, obviously, but we're really trying to share these drinks with people, so we've got a different mission. But
yeah, I guess it is mostly facts. When somebody who I can't remember who it was, well, I know you had commented this, but somebody else also mentioned to me that the shochu versus soju episode, they were kind of expecting me to be a little bit more pointed in my analysis of the differences, the comparison between the two very different categories, and I was apparently very restrained. And so I actually went back and listened to part of that one. I was like, wow, I really, really, really pulled my punches.
Yeah. Well, I think you want to be allowed back in Korea, right? At some point.
that'd be a nice thing. I mean I've been very pointed with I've informed some folks in Korea about exactly how that stuff is made over the years, and they were like, "Oh, didn't know that." Then they Wikipedia'd it. That's a really hard verb to say. And they found out that lo and behold, it's not made from rice, and so they were like, "Oh, this stuff is industrial swill." Okay, there. I didn't pull my punch that time. That should have been in that episode of Soju versus Shochu, but it was not. So yeah, I guess
Sure.
the analysis that it's mostly fact based is probably pretty accurate, and hopefully we're getting our facts correct. Although Maya did point out, let me see if I can find this comment. She already got me on one of these things. She said, fair comment, is 80% Kokuto 20% 5-1 or 4-1? I said 5-1. Nope, she's right. It's 4-1. So
4-1, yeah.
first cup of coffee. I already got
Maya's,
stung on my facts.
Maya is our fact checker for sure.
There we go.
Yeah.
So
In
anyways,
fact, we should
back
put that in
to
the show notes from now on. On the
right,
podcast.
the errata.
List her in the credits. Yeah. So
Errata check.
another good question here is Christopher no longer in his closet. We mentioned this at the top of the show. He's actually still in the same space, but he upgraded his closet to a pantry. So he's moving up in the world.
I'm in a pantry, and it's comfortable. I have more space now, which I like.
Yeah, actually, you
I
can
can
see
move
you're moving more
very
freely. Right?
I can move
Yeah.
very far away from the camera, which is kind of fun.
Yeah.
Before, if I had gotten back to here, I would have gotten poked in the back of the head by my swallows jackets and things. Those have now moved to a closet far, far away that also has booze in it, in fact. Although you can't really stand up in it. So, yeah. New upgraded closet. We're in a pantry now. Booze pantry.
Yeah.
All right. So before we forget, let's finish off the mention of the first
Sure.
Shochu episode, or the Shochu podcast, and that is the sweet potato episode. And we get into it quite a bit. We mentioned quite a few different brands that we enjoy, and we just kind of generally talk about why we enjoy sweet potato shochu so much, and I think it's no secret that you and I mostly drink, or the majority of what we enjoy at home is sweet potato shochu. And to the extent that when we go shopping, it's probably what, 75% sweet potato, 80, 90.
I don't know if I would agree with that. For me,
Okay.
yeah. I
What
mean,
are
I
your
think
shopping habits?
I would say it's a plurality. It's what I'm. It's probably the maybe less than 50% of the shochu I drink, but most of any single style would be sweet potato.
Okay.
Now, when I'm shopping, I'm going to check the sweet potato first, but I'm also going to check the kokuto, the awamori, and usually rice. Barley comes a little lower on the list, and I think it's just because I have so much of it. It tends to be what people make as gifts often. So I end up accumulating lots and lots of barley. Plus, I'm in Fukuoka, where we have plenty of barley shochu being made, and so I
good
do
barley
tend
shochu
to.
too.
Yeah, it's a little harder to find good rice shochu up here, so I would gravitate in that direction. And of course, I'll look for the aromatics. Like I think I mentioned the other day that I picked up the milk shochu from Kumamoto, just to have a little oddball here and there. So yeah, but I guess maybe what we could do is just reflect on like any like brand you want to talk about today on the sweet potato front. Like either you didn't give it love in the episode, or you just want to revisit it, talk a little bit more about the distillery or about the brand.
Yeah. This kind of gets into the what have you opened recently conversation, but I mean, I'm just looking around. Something that I don't think got any mention from while we were on the show was this guy here, Murao, which is of the 3Ms. They're called the 3Ms. It's a marketing thing from a while ago. Murao, Mao, and Morizo, which we did a Shochu'sday episode on these guys too. It's over on my Instagram feed if you want to go back and find it. I do not know what the number was. I apologize, but this is one of those 3 famous M sweet potato shochus that are hard to find, generally across the country and specifically outside of Kagoshima. And it's I like it. It's the black koji of the 3Ms, sweet potato shochu, and it's nice. It's nice. I'm not sure it can sometimes be over $100, but it's pretty good. So I really like this one, especially Oyuwari, and it's my favorite of the 3Ms. So I think I'd like to give these Murao a little bit of love.
Sure. That's a very good one. And when I first discovered the 3Ms, the first time I actually ever tried them was here in Fukuoka.
Was it?
At a shochu focused izakaya called Otsu, which is actually on like the 3rd or 4th floor of a commercial building in Daimyo. And I distinctly remember we were a large group. It was with Seikai Ishizuka, jazz musician in New York. He's from Fukuoka, and so I traveled here with him. It was my first time here. Got a big group of people together, all of his friends. We sat in the front window of the shop overlooking the street, and they basically ordered me a 3Ms flight. And
nice.
It was a revelation. This is the first time I'd been in Kyushu. Like probably the second or third night I was in Kyushu, and getting some of my first exposure to domestic shochu that I'd never been able to try before. And of the 3 at that time, Mao is what grabbed me. Right, the yellow koji.
The yellow koji one. Okay.
Yeah, vacuum distilled, very light, clean, and I just never knew sweet potato could taste that way.
Yeah, what yellow can do to sweet potato is wild. Sometimes it doesn't present as sweet potato at all.
Yeah, and then of course I think Moriizo I thought was quite elegant, and Murao was just rich, but it didn't really stand out for me. But over time, as I've revisited the 3 of them, my tastes have evolved, and I would probably now put Murao on top, and Mao, while it's an interesting drink, would probably drop to the bottom of the 3. So Moriizo just maintains that second place position.
I think that's probably the same for me.
Yeah, but they're all very nice, and when I see them, if they're relatively affordable, I'm usually going to order them.
And Moriizo never is. Moriizo is I've got a bottle of that somewhere.
Yeah.
Moriizo is this guy here, and he or she or they are, I don't know. You can sometimes in Tokyo find this per glass for about $20.
Yeah.
It's pricey. Very
very
difficult to find.
I remember the first time I got to do a Moriizo flight was in Tokyo, and I think it was 4,500 yen or 5,000 yen for 3 glasses, and it was the standard, and then a couple of aged ones, right?
Yeah.
And a top aged one I think was, what's their top one? Maybe around 10 years old or something like that, or 5 or 10, something like that. I don't recall, but it was and I think it was like, and then I think it finished with a Genshu, right? And that was also very interesting to just taste through those. But you rarely see those flights available, and when you do, they're expensive.
Yeah.
For the Moriizo, but yeah, all nice drinks, but
3 thimbles of sweet potato shochu.
Yeah, but I think as you and I have discovered over time, there are so many other amazing brands that are so much more affordable that you don't really have to spend the premium on Moriizo.
So who do you want to give a shout out to?
Well, I actually did on the podcast, but I'll do it again. And it's Rokudaime Yuri, who I will toot this horn. This may be the kanji on my gravestone when I it's a really, really incredible drink, and made on Koshiki. There's only 2 distilleries on that group of islands, and this has become the most famous because they won top shochu in a blind tasting, which included
that magazine here somewhere.
The 3Ms, yeah, the Danshu issue from what was that, 2016 maybe?
It was a few years ago.
Or 18, yeah. And it sort of surprised people. It's they because it was I think they had light type, medium type, and full bodied as like three different categories, and they had put one of the three M's in each of those categories. And there were so many heavy hitters in, I think, the rich type or the full bodied type.
Uh-huh.
And in the blind taste, it was actually Rokudai Miyuri that came out on top.
Yeah.
Yeah, Yuri. I think there was a question: is Yuri available in the States? And it really is not.
There is no chance of that. Yeah,
Yeah,
it is so
you
small.
yeah, tiny distillery, and they can't make enough to meet demand right now after winning that prize. But really, really lovely. This is the 25%. They also make a 35%, and then they also have a bottled Genshu, and the Genshu is actually a vintage release. So I just picked up the 2020.
That's the little
release.
like clear bottle one, right?
Yeah. Do I have that handy? I think I do. Maybe not. Let me check this closet. No. I do not know where I put it. I'll have it on a future episode. I haven't opened it.
Okay.
But that was, Yuri is just such a lovely drink. And I remember meeting one of the Kurabito when I spent a month in Kyoto a few years ago, and they had a Satsuma Shochu event up on the top floor of one of the department stores, and one of the Kurabito was there doing a tasting along with, there was somebody from Komasa, somebody from Satsuma Shuzo, somebody from I think Isa Daisen was there as well, and so I could meet somebody from Yuri, which was pretty cool. So and that was the first time I tried the 35 was at that department store. That's just deep and rich and luscious. I'm just worried about having a 35% alcohol isho bean at home. That sounds like an unproductive period of my life.
Yeah, a couple afternoons. Goodbye. Well, yeah, that's a very good two. I think we both chose pretty stellar examples for our shout outs, which again, unfortunately, are not available outside of Japan as far as I can tell.
Yeah.
At least not at the behest of the distillery themselves. They are probably not allowing it to be exported. There's definitely enough of a market here for it to just stay at home.
But one more reason to come visit Japan, and
exactly, there's another that just raises Japan higher on the bucket list for hopefully everyone.
Go bottle hunting
right now. Yeah.
In Fukuoka, the only place I know that Yuri is available regularly is Tomozoe Saketen in central Fukuoka. So whenever I need to restock, that's where I head, and he's always got at least the 25 and often the 35 and the Genshu.
And this is something that's really interesting about, probably the same with sake. I'm sure it's the same in the sake world, but with shochu makers and awamori makers, a lot of the smaller ones are very, very careful about where their products are placed. So the accounts, I think it's a bit of a wooing process. If you happen to be a bottle shop or an izakaya somewhere in the country, and you really want to, for instance, you want to sell Yuri or you want to sell Murao, which I showed, it's a courtship. I think you have to demonstrate your affection. You probably have to visit the distillery. Now in Shiota's case for Yuri, you can't visit, so that's not off the table, but you got to somehow show that you are really dedicated and are going to be a loving home for that brand. And you also have to be geographically advantaged in that you don't have another account, another bottle shop, another izakaya nearby, or same train station that you're going to be potentially taking customers away from. So it's a strategic play on the part of the distillery in terms of where they allow those brands to kind of find their way into. And a good example of this is where you work every fall, Yamato Zakura. He's extremely discerning in terms of which off-premise accounts, which bottle shops can sell his product. And I'm very fortunate because I have one about a 20-minute walk from here. There just happens to be one in Kodaira City in western Tokyo. And so that I'm lucky. But there's not another one for miles, because he doesn't want them to bump up against each other. He doesn't want one to take business from the other. I don't think that would happen necessarily because there's so little of his product available anyway that no matter where it is, everybody's going to sell out.
Sure.
So, but it's it's fun. It's interesting how it can be very difficult to track these bottles down, and that's by design.
Right. And then it really is like exploring every bottle shop in your area, figuring out who's stocking what. And then you almost have to make a list.
Yeah.
At least, it's probably better to write it down because there's so many good brands. Right?
Tomozoya has Shiota. They have Yuri, so these other places are probably not going to have it. I need to remember that it's only at that place if that's what you're looking for. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, fortunately, he has Yamato Zakura. He has Chingu from Iki. He's got like some really, really nice brands there. But, he's been open for forever. And so, he's built that reputation. He's a pretty large, because I guess this is a nuance that maybe people outside of Japan don't really understand. Bottle shops aren't just retail locations. They're often selling into bars and restaurants. They become the distributor often in communities. And you'll actually see what's pretty amazing is they have these little 3-wheel motorbikes that they will do deliveries during dinner service. Like if a shop's running low on something, they call up the liquor store, say, "Look, I'm running out of Yuri. Lyman's here. We got to restock." Then, the little trike shows up outside with a case of whatever they need to restock with, and they'll bring them soda water. They'll bring them Coca-Cola. They'll bring them beer. They'll bring kegs. They'll bring them just about anything will show up during service, right? And I remember my friends in New York when they were running restaurants, they could only get their deliveries on like Mondays and Thursdays from their liquor supplier. There was just no other way to do it, right? And here you can basically place a call at 7:30 on a Friday night and have your hooch in. Yeah, it's pretty amazing system. But now I think people probably aren't really, at least a lot of our newer viewers aren't really aware, but Christopher and I used to be, we used to run a little standing bar in Fukuoka that unfortunately was closed permanently due to the coronavirus situation. And we really had to court makers to stock that bar. And of course, we wanted the good stuff, the stuff we enjoyed drinking at home. And a lot of the makers, because we've built relationships with them, were willing to sell to us. But for example, Shiota was not.
Yeah.
They were like, nope, not taking any new accounts right now.
No new accounts at all. Full stop.
Yeah.
We're like, okay, well, we're waiting. Anytime you're ready, we will come and bow down to the altar of Shiota anytime you request.
Yeah.
And
I think when we wanted the Rurikakesu, the rum, when we called them up, they were like, why? Why do you want us?
We're like, because we think we're fascinated by your rum. Can we carry it in our bar? And they're like, I guess. And that one was a little bit easier of a sell, although you did have to handwrite all of the logistical stuff back and forth. They're when the first case of that showed up, we ordered just I think like a 6 or 12 pack of the rum, and when the case showed up, the invoice was handwritten. It was actually a piece of paper, just handwritten. And we finally ended up being able to meet the owner not that long ago, and he was really appreciative of the business. Nice to meet us, all that sort of thing. And I asked him about those handwritten invoices. He's like, "Oh yeah, that's my mom. She's 91." Mom's earning her keep. That's really impressive.
Yeah, she does all the invoicing.
Business. Yeah, she does all the back of house stuff. That's impressive. Probably does keeps their books and everything.
Sure.
Well, anyways, thank you, everybody. Please have a listen to if you're into podcasts, go to japandistill.com and listen to the Sweet Potato Shochu podcast, which just dropped 2 evenings ago. Hopefully, there's something there for everyone. And I don't really that we recorded that one a few weeks ago. We're getting more kind of. We used to have a bunch of stuff in the can, and now we're kind of like almost not playing catch up, but we're definitely kind of like, oh no, there's a deadline coming. We got a Monday coming up. We better get something ready to present.
We just recorded Kokuto. Monday?
Was in the process of
So we recorded that the day that the sweet potato came out. So we're at least 2 weeks ahead, but we don't have anything backlogged. So we definitely need to do some recordings. I think, it would be great to hear what people want to hear. What we're thinking is jump to gin.
Right, we've been talking about gin for a long time, and
I think Yeah, we have lots of gins, and I
Oh, I've
think
got so much gin.
yeah. So I think a gin episode, and then what I thought gin might be a nice transition to aromatics. Maybe do an episode on aromatics.
Okay,
Right, go
yeah.
back in
A la
aromatic
what we did
shochu.
on Shochu'sday last week. That was
Hmm.
an interesting episode too of Shochu'sday, episode number
Yeah,
54.
yeah, and then from there we still have to do kasutori, the sake leaves shochu. We still
Definitely.
got to do
Got to do soba.
soba. Yeah, we got to get back into awamori.
Yeah, we need to do another deeper dive into Awamori. We need to do another. I almost feel like we're gonna need another Kokuto love song pretty soon. I mean, I know it just dropped last week, but I just feel like
No,
we
it
just
drops next
scratched
week.
the surface. Oh, it's
It's
dropping
actually in
next.
2 weeks.
Oh shoot! All right. Well, then we'll need one. We'll need to space that one out. I guess the gin is gonna buy us some time. We
Yeah.
could do an O to V episode. We could do. I don't know. What do people
Eau de
think?
vie is interesting. Yeah, there isn't a lot of it here, but the stuff that's here is pretty fascinating compared to what you get out of Europe. Because it's using local botanicals. So
Mm-hmm.
that could be interesting. Yeah, but I guess the aromatics might kind of lend itself to that as well. So maybe we'll do sort of a series on Japanese spirits made with uh, things that add aroma and flavor rather than alcohol. So that'd be
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that
that'd
was.
be
I guess
good.
that one's in the. Maybe that one's after
Yeah,
gin.
that's sort of all right. So we're working it out right here
There's
on
the
the
next
air.
two. All right.
Scintillating television.
S
So what about newly opened? What have you opened recently you want to talk
yeah,
about?
let's throw that up there. Newly opened, and if anybody out in the crowd wants to chime in too, we'd love to hear. But for me, newly opened is actually you mentioned a yellow koji sweet potato, and mine is I have to cover my light. It's called kikoji gura, which is
Hmm.
a yellow koji sweet potato shochu made with kogane sengan by Kokubu Distillery, and they're famous for a bunch of the newer creative like Yasuda, the new yeast strains and really aromatic sweet potato shochus that have come out over the last few years. And this is another example of how the koji strain can really bend things in a new direction. And you've heard us say this a million times. There's not a whole lot of yellow koji used in sweet potato shochu production. The most famous one outside of Japan is Tomino Hozan, made by Nishi Distillery in Kagoshima Prefecture. That's a great example. It's also a good beginner shochu, or I don't want to say beginner. I guess
Yeah.
it's an easy one to figure out. Extremely aromatic, very floral, and a very interesting gateway to the vast and very deep rabbit hole world of sweet potato shochu. This is in that vein, very floral, very big white flower bouquet, and it's nice. Unfortunately, it doesn't play super friendly with hot water, which I have found out a couple of times. I've been determined to find the right dilution. I haven't found it yet. It's more of a on the rocks or,
Okay.
of course, mizuwari sipper, but
Yep.
it's pretty good. I like it.
Yeah, I don't think I've seen that one before. That's interesting. Yeah, Tomino Hozan is easily the best-selling yellow koji sweet potato shochu on the market. It's surprisingly available. It's also available overseas. Often yellow label, gold foil. It's really pretty packaging, and it's a nice drink. I agree, but yeah, not a hot water play for sure. Yeah, I went in a different direction. I actually been wanting to open this bottle for a while, and I actually cracked it last night as my evening sipper. This is
Oh, okay.
Nine Leaves. Sorry, my light's too bright too. It's called Angel's Half.
All
This
right.
is Nine Leaves rum, aged in American oak cask, 50% alcohol. And on our rum episode, we had talked about the Encrypted 3,
Yeah, I'm looking for
which
my bottle right now.
is a little bit darker hue. It's also the Encrypted 3 is also 58% alcohol. And
Uh-huh.
when we had done that episode, the encrypted 3 really it's mature, it's stately. It's like it's so different from all the wild island rums that
Uh-huh.
predominate in Japan, you know,
Definitely.
everything from down in Okinawa or from Amami and that sort of thing. And Nine Leaves just seems to be going in a very different direction in how they make their rums. They're much more reserved, I guess. They're much more clean.
Adult.
They don't have the funk that you get from like a Jamaican rum or from, you know, some of the pot still expressions. And then a lot of the other Japanese rums have that funk, right? They're really,
Yeah.
really pretty wild. And I really like that wildness. I enjoy that. But Nine Leaves just takes it in a different direction. My first sip of Angel's Half, it was almost like drinking a whiskey. Like it was just it was expressing that much of the barrel and so little of the sugar on first impression. And then as I sat with it a little longer, I diluted a little bit. It's delicious. It's a really, really nice drink, and I think it may now have moved to the top of my list of Japanese rums as far as what I would want to be drinking on a regular basis. I've only had a glass. I'll have to go back and revisit, but it really, really surprised me. In fact, I like it better than Encrypted 3. It might be because it's a little bit more expressive. It's a and I'm really have to taste the two side by side to see where I'm at. But they're really, really interesting drink.
Yeah.
So I was
How
glad I
much
opened
is that
it.
retail? Where you picked that up at a bottle shop, I assume. You
Yeah,
didn't
that's
order it, did you?
that's no, no, no. That's that bottle shop I've told you about in here in Fukuoka. That specializes in Western spirits. They have like the shochu is like 6 brands tucked under the stairs, mostly in cartons. Like they just don't care
Ah,
about shochu at all. But then they have like pretty tremendous whiskey selection, pretty great rum,
yeah, you have
brandy,
talked about that
cognac.
before. Okay.
Yeah, so I picked it up there. I picked it up when we were recording the rum episode, and so I don't remember what I
But it's
paid. I think
probably going to be similar to the encrypted in that ballpark, right? So you're
it was
up
it
close
was a
to
little bit less, but yeah, it's probably $80 or so. It was not,
US.
yeah, probably 8,000 yen or
Yeah,
so.
that's what I remember encrypted. Encrypted was more than 8,000 yen, for
Yep.
maybe 9,000 yen once you mixed in the shipping cost.
Hmm.
But encrypted 3, right? You said?
Yep.
I,
Yep.
I found my bottle, but it's wedged in there behind a bunch of other rum, and I don't want to knock stuff over, so I'm not gonna. It's gonna be noisy. I'm not gonna take it out and check.
Sure, sure. Yeah, no,
Well,
good stuff though. I really enjoyed the Angel's Half, and I think that might be easier to find than the encrypted 3. I think there might be a little bit more of it on the market, but again, as far as I know, largely at least I've never seen it in uh, overseas markets. Perhaps it's
mhm.
available in Europe, but I don't think it's available in the States.
Yeah,
Yeah.
John Go just chimed in about the nine leaves distillation process, saying that it's as you hinted, it is quite
Hmm.
similar to Scotch in
Yeah.
terms of their process and yeah, the funky stuff. I like the funky stuff too. I think
Yeah.
like the Ruri Kakesu. I love how weird it is. I love how
Yeah.
opinionated it is. I love how finicky it is, and
Yeah.
it's one of those drinks that's never going to just settle. You're not really ever going to. You're going to find parts of it every time you sip it that you focus on, but
Hmm.
it's never going to be really the same experience twice, which I think is kind of
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah. I mean, when tar and gasoline become tasting notes, and you're actually happy about it, you know
Yeah.
that you've entered the weird end of the rum spectrum.
Yep. I'm happy to be there. I will do weird all day long.
Yeah.
So
I really enjoy that drink as well. But I was just thinking, like, end of a long work day, just want to sip on something that's nice and calming. You know what you would normally do with a glass of nice whiskey or scotch
uh huh.
or that sort of thing. It's not going to be the rikakese, right? It's That's when I want to let my hair down a little bit and have a little fun. But if I just want something to relax, you know, put it in a nice glass with a big piece of ice, I would go toward Nine Leaves. I think it's
Nine
like I
leaves
said, it's more
angels half, huh?
it's more mature, more reserved, more stately, I
Well,
guess.
maybe
Right.
you send me a sample of the angel's half, and then I will send you. Oh, we still have samples that I sent you recently that we have to go through. So maybe that can be on next week's
Sure.
show. You want
Hmm.
to do a little bit of Tokyo Island.
Yeah, let's do
Shochu.
Tokyo Islands next week.
Okay.
That'd be great.
Just decided
Great
it
episode.
now. Next week is Tokyo Islands Shochu. We'll do a tasting of the one I sent you, which is wild. I think it's technically a barley shochu, but it has sweet potato in it. So it's I think it's a barley koji with sweet potato and then more barley. So it's
Oh wow.
it's full on. It's pretty cool.
All right.
So
I'm
we'll
gonna have to
talk
see if I
about
can-
that next week.
See if I can track down any of those before. I don't have any Tokyo Shochu right now.
Well, other than the
Other
one
than
the
that
sample
sample.
I sent you,
Yep, yep,
which will be enough to. I think for a morning show, we only need to taste through one probably on
Sure,
the
sure.
show, but
No question.
for
Yeah, I guess that's an
general
episode we'll need to
enjoyment.
do in the future as well.
It's very true. There's another
Yeah.
podcast episode.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Okay. Awesome. Yeah, absolutely. Well, everybody who is still in the comments, we've got some people talking away, and this is fantastic. We love the banter, and we enjoy the sharing of ideas and experiences. So thank you very much. And as we learned from this episode, people were able to comment before we even got on the air, which was a revelation for us. And again, yeah, we just really appreciate the you guys showing up to talk shop and appreciate these koji spirits around the world. And we'll be back again soon. Episode 56 will be about Tokyo Shochu.
There we
Shochu
go.
that is actually made in Tokyo. Not the first thing that comes to mind when people talk about shochu, but it is. There are some very old traditions in the outer lying islands, and we'll talk about that next week. So thank you, Stephen.
Yeah.
Good, another good one. Kanpai to you,
Definitely. Yeah.
and
Kanpai to
kanpai to
you.
everybody out there. Stay safe and stay happy, and we'll be back again soon. Very hearty and heartfelt. I need more coffee. Kanpai.
Kanpai.